For 2 years after our marriage, I never managed to fit into his circle, but his ex-girlfriend, Nicole, could. I watched the girl move effortlessly among a group of men and asked, "Who is she?" His expression showed clear impatience. "Elena, can you at least have some basic trust in me?" So, I withdrew my edge. Every time he came up with yet another clumsy excuse, I simply said, "I believe you." Chapter 1. On Luis's birthday, he said he wanted to celebrate with his friends a day early, leaving the actual day for just the two of us. He was the kind of man who understood romance. I didn't find his suggestion strange. In fact, a small part of me was even pleased. It meant he cared about us. Since parties always involved drinking, I insisted he shouldn't drive. After dropping him off, he kissed my cheek reluctantly. "Elena, I'll head up first. If I come back late, don't wait up, go to bed early." I nodded and watched him walk away. Even then, I still had a flicker of hope inside me. I hoped he would turn around and ask, "Elena, do you want to come up with me?" But he didn't. He never would. In the 2 years we'd been married, all I knew was that he had one close friend named Noah. As for the rest of his circle, I knew nothing. After Luis left, I sat in the car for a couple of minutes before restarting the engine. When I got home, I followed my usual habit of checking the trunk to see if there was anything left behind. That's when I saw it, the cake placed right in the center. It was pastel blue, not exactly a color you'd use for a man's birthday. Leaning closer, I saw the frosting. 7 crooked words piped by hand. "Happy birthday, Luis." The tone was unmistakably feminine. A cake from a colleague. Maybe? He'd rushed out of the car, probably just forgot to take it. I called his phone. It rang a few times, but no one picked up. He was probably too busy celebrating. Still, a birthday without a cake didn't feel right. So I got back into the car and drove to the restaurant where they were gathering, carrying the cake upstairs. I felt a wave of nervousness. Honestly, I barely knew any of Luis's friends. In my head, I rehearsed how I'd greet them without sounding awkward. As I reached the door, laughter spilled out from inside. I took a deep breath and walked in. The sound of the door opening drew everyone's attention. I nodded politely. "Hello, everyone." No one responded. The atmosphere turned strangely stiff. Luis walked over. His tone was unreadable. "What are you doing here?" I held out the cake. "You forgot this." As he took it, his eyes flickered, not toward me, but toward the only woman in the room. Naturally, I followed his gaze. The girl was wearing a floral dress, cute, yet a bit seductive. She smiled faintly at me, but I didn't feel warmth in that smile. The room fell silent for several seconds. Most of them probably didn't even recognize me. After all, the only time they'd seen me was at the wedding. With full bridal makeup, a far cry from how I looked now. Finally, Noah broke the silence. "Sis-in-law's here." The tension eased a little. People laughed and told me to come in and sit down. But Luis stood there, unmoving. "Elena, let's celebrate together tomorrow instead." So that was it, he was sending me away. At first, I didn't want to intrude on his guys-only gathering. He'd said having me there would make things inconvenient. And I believed he was thinking of me. But now, I looked again at the only girl in the room. Maybe I wasn't the exception. Maybe she was. So, who was she? Chapter 2. Luis and I met through a blind date. 2 years ago. I was 24, and he was 25. We weren't exactly old, but both of our families were pushing us hard to get married. My mother always said, "Those who don't listen to their elders will suffer right in front of their eyes." She liked to remind me that after living for more than 40 or 50 years, her ability to judge people was definitely better than mine. Back in college, I had a boyfriend once, although my mother didn't openly oppose the relationship. She met him once and said we wouldn't last long. Sure enough, that relationship dragged on for a year and a half, emotionally exhausting. Before graduation, it ended badly. I admitted she was right. After graduation, I stayed single for quite a while, which made my mother anxious. She worried I'd been scarred by that failed romance. So she enthusiastically began arranging blind dates for me. Before Luis, I'd met 2 other men. Among them, he had the best overall qualities, good temperament, stable mood, and most importantly, mentally normal. Coincidentally, his parents were also urging him to settle down quickly, so we hit it off right away. We had dinner together a few times, went on a few dates, and 3 months later, we were married. I'm not the overly sentimental type. And Luis wasn't either, at least not at the beginning. We lived more like roommates under the same roof. That was what Luis said a month after our wedding. In truth, there wasn't much emotional foundation between us. Marriage had simply happened naturally, conveniently. It felt less like destiny, and more like both of us trying to escape our parents' constant nagging. We moved into our new apartment. Without discussing it, we formed an unspoken agreement. I took the master bedroom. He took the guest room. One night, Luis texted me that his company had a team-building event, and that he'd be home late, telling me not to wait up. I didn't. I made some hangover soup and left it in the living room, so he'd see it when he got back. But after returning to my room, I couldn't fall asleep no matter how I tossed and turned, so I went back to the living room and put on a movie. When Luis came home, I was crunching on chips, eyes glued to the best part of the film. "You're back. There's hangover soup on the table," I said casually, as if by habit, then continued watching. He stood by the doorway for a while before changing shoes and coming in. After a moment, I realized he'd sat down beside me, just watching me quietly. "What's wrong?" I asked. He smiled. "Elena, we don't really feel like a married couple, more like roommates, do we?" I didn't think too deeply about what he meant, but as I stared at the screen, I could feel his gaze still fixed on me. When I turned my head, our eyes met. He had deep double-lidded eyes, the kind that looked refined and gentle, a little like one of the male idols I used to have a crush on. "What's wrong?" I asked again. Something about him tonight felt different, unusual. "Elena," he said softly, "should we give it a try? Being together, in the real sense of the word?" I knew exactly what he meant. Right now, we were like two strangers sharing the same household registration. At best, we were friends, our relationship hard to define. Honestly, I was content with the way things were. No parental pressure. A stable partner I didn't have to worry about. But Luis said, "When I come home and open the door, I see you sitting on the sofa, eating chips, watching a movie seriously, and the hangover soup you made sitting on the table." He said that moment felt warm and beautiful. "Elena," he told me, "let's give it a try." Chapter 3. It was he who first said he wanted to start a relationship with me. He would prepare surprises on anniversaries, take me on trips for my birthday to help me relax, remember the food I liked, and even squeeze through crowds at signing events just to get something for me. But now that I think about it, he never once said he loved me. When I got home, I placed my car keys on the entryway cabinet. I was so dazed I didn't even notice I hadn't changed into slippers. I'd heard his friends call that girl Nicole, and Nicole was laughing and playing around with them, clearly very familiar. And not only did I not know Nicole, I didn't even know his friends. At the party, Luis had said, "We'll celebrate together tomorrow." I felt uncomfortable inside. But with all his friends there, in such a lively atmosphere, I didn't want to make things awkward, so I just said okay, and drove home alone. When Luis came back, it was already 2 in the morning. I woke up to the sound of the door opening, only then realizing I'd fallen asleep waiting for him. Somehow, without noticing, I'd already grown used to waiting. He was obviously drunk, his steps unsteady. I went over to support him, and he leaned his entire weight against me. The hangover soup was ready long ago. I picked it up and handed it to him. His eyes were half closed, his expression dazed and unfocused. I wanted to ask him something, but decided against it. I'd wait until he sobered up tomorrow. Just as I was about to help him back to his room, his phone rang. We shared the same password, because we'd always been open with each other. No secrets, no games. I unlocked his phone and glanced at the screen. The name was immediately clear. Nicole. No last name. Just that, intimate, familiar. It was a voice message. I pressed play on speaker. A soft, delicate female voice came through. Luis, are you home yet? Is your girlfriend angry? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make things awkward for you. The speaker wasn't quiet, even in his drunken haze. Luis clearly heard it. His eyes suddenly cleared a bit. It's okay, Nicole. Don't blame yourself. When he looked up and saw my face, he froze. Elena. At first, I hadn't thought much of it. I figured I'd just ask him about it when he sobered up tomorrow. After all, silence only hurts a relationship. But just now, the tone in his voice when he spoke to her, the way it carried both comfort and tenderness, I didn't mishear it. Luis, I asked quietly. Who is Nicole? His gaze fell on my hand. You're holding my phone. Was that the point? Then he said, why did you answer my call without permission? His tone, almost reproachful. He'd never spoken to me like that before. A year ago, a new intern at his company had tried to pursue him. He'd immediately told me, saying he had made it clear he was married. Back then, he'd shown me his phone proudly, insisting I check his messages if I wanted. I'd found him childish, but endearing, and I'd fallen for him even more. He never said I love you, but he acted like he did, and I thought that was better than empty sweet talk. But now, he was blaming me for answering his call. Maybe, without realizing it, something between us had already changed. Still, I stubbornly asked again, who is Nicole? He hesitated for a long moment before replying. Reluctantly, she's my ex-girlfriend. Chapter 4. After Luis and I officially decided to start our relationship, we were honest with each other. I told him I'd had a boyfriend before. He also told me he'd had a girlfriend. They'd been together for 4 years but broke up for some reason. He never said what that reason was, and I thought it was in the past, not worth digging into, so I didn't ask. But now, how come you're still in contact with your ex-girlfriend? He rubbed his forehead tiredly, looking somewhat weary. She came to town for a business trip recently. We just ran into each other by chance. By chance? I pressed further. Then why was she at your birthday party? He pinched the bridge of his nose, clearly uncomfortable. His tone grew impatient. Are you interrogating me? Elena, can you at least have a little basic trust in me? I had never seen him like this before. I was only asking a reasonable question. But instead of answering directly, he blamed me for not trusting him enough. I remembered 6 months ago. Our company had hired a new male intern. He had just graduated. The director asked me to mentor him. New graduates are always full of energy and curiosity. He followed me around every day, asking endless questions. After I patiently answered them all, he looked at me with admiration and said, Elena, you're such a nice person. Whoever marries you will be the luckiest man alive. He was the type who expressed himself easily, not like Luis, who never said sweet words but showed his care through actions. Thinking of Luis, I couldn't help but smile. When I looked up, I saw him waiting for me outside the company entrance. I walked toward him with a smile, but his expression didn't look good. Who's that guy? He asked. I glanced back at the young man, who was still waving enthusiastically at me from the door, and I waved back in return. Then I told Luis, a new hire, I'm mentoring him. After saying that, I walked toward the passenger seat, but Luis didn't move. What's wrong? I asked. Elena, that guy seems a little too close to you. I'm a bit jealous. He even looked slightly aggrieved, like a sulking child. I couldn't help but laugh. Everyone at my company knows I'm married. Then I went up to him playfully and teased. Don't be jealous, little Luis. I'll take you out for something tasty. My teasing made him laugh, and he relaxed. Back then, he said, Elena, if something bothers us, we should always talk it through. Otherwise, misunderstandings left unresolved will hurt the relationship. I couldn't have agreed more. But now, I suddenly couldn't understand him anymore. Chapter 5. Luis probably didn't sleep well that night. Neither did I. I kept tossing and turning. He was drunk from the alcohol, and I was suffocating from what I felt inside. He must have really drunk a lot. He barely spoke, just rubbed his eyes painfully. And after the way he scolded me last night, I no longer felt like talking either. In the middle of the night, when he finally fell asleep, he instinctively reached out and placed his hand on my waist. I quietly moved it away. He made a displeased sound, then turned his back to me. The next day, I was supposed to be off work for his birthday, but I slept straight through until 1 in the afternoon, because I barely slept all night, only managing to close my eyes when the first light of dawn crept in. Luis had probably just woken up too, hung over. He rubbed his temples with a grimace. Hearing me stir, he instinctively reached over to pull me into his arms. I pushed him away again. "What's wrong, Elena?" He wasn't drunk enough to have forgotten everything, was he? When I didn't reply, he leaned in closer, resting his head on my shoulder. His tone soft and coaxing. "I'm sorry, Elena. I stayed out too late drinking yesterday. Please don't be mad at me." He had stayed out late drinking before. Back then, I would scold him gently, telling him to take care of his health, to stop drinking and staying up late, and he would whine and act spoiled, saying, "Elena, I was wrong," then hug me tightly with a smile, telling me, "You're so good to me. I'm so lucky to have married you." But now, I wasn't in the mood for tenderness. I lifted the blanket and got out of bed. I heard him pause behind me, his movements suddenly still. But he said nothing, and got up as well. I guessed, he remembered. For breakfast, I made a simple bowl of millet porridge. He was hungover, so something light would be better for his stomach. He followed me around with the bowl in his hand. I handed him a portion, but he just stood there, unmoving, so I served myself and went to sit at the dining table. He followed, looking a little disheartened. "Elena." I kept drinking my porridge in silence. He sat across from me, stirring his spoon in the bowl for a long time, before finally saying, "Elena, I drank too much yesterday, and I didn't talk to you properly. I'm sorry." When I still didn't respond, he hurried to explain, "Nicole is my ex-girlfriend, but I didn't invite her yesterday. Leo brought her. She's Leo's friend too. She showed up, and I couldn't exactly kick her out." "Who's Leo?" I asked. "A friend of mine." "Why don't I know him?" "You've met him a few times. Maybe." I raised my head and looked at him. "Not a few times, never. Luis, the only one of your friends I've ever met is Noah. I don't know any of the others. But Nicole, she seemed to know them all pretty well." The moment I mentioned her name, Luis reflexively said, "It's got nothing to do with Nicole. Next time, I'll introduce you to everyone." I didn't quite understand. Did he have to say her name so naturally, so intimately? After he finished, he watched my face carefully. "Elena, are you still mad at me?" His tone was almost exactly the same as every time I had a small tantrum, and he tried to coax me. Our 2 years together had been real. Luis's kindness wasn't fake. I thought for a while, and suddenly I wanted to give him another chance. After all, he'd always said, "If something's wrong, we should talk about it. Misunderstandings left unspoken will hurt our relationship." He was right about that. I shouldn't jump to conclusions because of one incident. "Luis," I said seriously, looking at him, "why do you still have her on WeChat? Have you two been talking all this time?" At that, he frowned. "Inevitably, I only added her yesterday. We haven't been in contact before that." "Then can you delete her?" I asked. "And promise not to contact her again?" "Elena," he hesitated. "I don't have feelings for her anymore, but if I delete her now, it'll seem too deliberate. People might misunderstand." He didn't care what I might think, but he cared what others would. A dull ache spread in my chest. Chapter 6. For his birthday, I had bought everything in advance, including a special bottle of red wine. I thought that since Luis was always the one creating little surprises for me, this time I should do something romantic for him. But now, the excitement I felt 2 days ago when I bought those gifts was completely gone. My mood was low, and Luis seemed cautious the entire evening. The birthday gift I'd prepared was a wristwatch. When he opened the box, his eyes lit up with surprise. "Elena, you still remember?" Yes, I still remembered. Back then, He couldn't bring himself to buy an 8,000 yuan watch for himself. Yet for my birthday, he had given me a 30,000 yuan bag. His kindness toward me had always been real. That's probably why it was so hard to let go. Halfway through dinner, he went to the restroom. While he was gone, his phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up with a message. Luis, I think I'm lost. I don't know where I am. Could you come and get me? Sender, Nicole. When Luis came back out, he was smiling brightly. He put on the watch and showed it to me. Elena, I really love it. Thank you for remembering. He leaned down and kissed my cheek as he spoke, but I simply pointed at his phone. You've got a message. He glanced at the screen, his brows furrowed slightly, as if he were thinking. Then he looked up at me. Elena, I might need to go out for a bit. I closed my eyes. As expected, an ex is always the perfect weapon to wound the one who came after. He hesitated, but still explained. Nicole just arrived in the city. She doesn't know anyone here, and she's lost. I'll go check on her and come back soon. This time, he didn't call her by her first name. He used her full name instead, almost the second he finished. I couldn't hold back anymore. Can you not go? I asked. I was afraid that if I waited even 1 second longer, I wouldn't have the strength to say those words. This was the last chance I was giving us. You said you wouldn't contact her again. Can you really do that? Clearly, you can't. He stood up, came over, and crouched down in front of me. Elena, there's really nothing between us. Don't overthink it, even if it were someone else. I'd still go help. Luis had never been someone with weak boundaries. After all, if I so much as got a little too close to another man, he'd get jealous, and whenever another woman tried to approach him, he'd always keep a respectful distance. Does Nicole not know you're married? In this digital age, does she really need to call someone else's husband just because she's lost? Her intentions couldn't be more obvious. It only depends on whether you choose to see them or not. Now she deliberately leans closer. And you don't push her away. I guess this is your choice. I once thought I'd found a slow simmering bowl of porridge in this fast food era of love, but now, it feels more like an illusion. I nodded weakly, forcing a bitter smile. I believe you. Chapter 7. He came back quickly. Barely an hour had passed. But in that hour, I had already cleaned up the dining table, put the red wine back into the cabinet, washed the dishes, video called my mom, taken a shower, and was now lying in bed. The living room light was off. When he came in, he called out my name out of habit. Elena. I lay in bed, silent. Soon, he turned the doorknob and came in. Elena, he said softly, sitting down by the bed. Are you asleep? I didn't respond. He lay down beside me, reached out to wrap an arm around my waist, and tried to pull me closer. You're cold, I murmured, subtly moving his hand away. Are you angry? He asked gently, his voice still tender. I sighed with my eyes closed. Why do you keep asking that these past 2 days? Is there something I should be angry about? My question left him speechless, perhaps sensing my indifference. He leaned closer again. I just gave her a ride. He probably wanted to explain, but I didn't want to hear it anymore. Go to sleep, I said tiredly. I'm exhausted. You've been outside all night, the chill's all over you. Don't touch me. Hearing that, he grew anxious and reached to feel my forehead. Elena, are you not feeling well? I buried my head into the pillow. No, I'll be fine after some sleep. Luis, isn't it tiring, taking care of 2 women at the same time? Chapter 8. That night, again, I didn't sleep well. Ever since I learned about Nicole's existence, it had only been 2 days, yet I felt completely drained. When Luis left for work in the morning, he saw me still sitting there without any sign of getting ready. Not going to work today? He asked. I shook my head. Took a day off. He immediately came over. What's wrong? Nothing, just tired. I want to rest. You can go. Before leaving, he kept glancing back at me with that uneasy expression, but I just sat there, eating my fried egg. I didn't look up, and I didn't walk him to the door. Around 10 o'clock, I went out. When I got home, my dad was watering the plants, and my mom sat nearby, giving him instructions. She looked much healthier now. As soon as I walked in, she greeted me warmly. "Your husband didn't come with you?" She had always been very fond of Luis, so much that she called him son-in-law, with more affection than she showed her own daughter. I hesitated, then lied. "It's a work day today. He couldn't take time off." In the past, Luis always came with me, but this time, I hadn't told him I was coming home. During lunch, my mother took a box out of the cabinet and handed it to me. "When you go back, bring this tea to your husband. He likes this brand, right?" My friend brought it back for him from her trip. I reached out to take it. The words I wanted to say got stuck in my throat. My mother's closeness to Luis wasn't without reason. Last year, her health had been poor. She'd been hospitalized for quite a while. Luis had stayed by her bedside the entire time, day and night, more attentive than I was. Back then, our relationship had been good. My mother had even joked, "From now on, Luis is my real son." I asked, "Then what am I?" She laughed and said, "You're my daughter-in-law." The hospital room was full of laughter. No gloom, no weariness. Those were such good days. Looking at the box of tea my mother was proudly holding out, I couldn't bring myself to tell her about the divorce. She was still recovering, and it was rare to see her so cheerful. I thought, maybe next time. Chapter 9. After leaving the house, I called a friend and asked him to check if there were any apartments for rent near my company. Luis came home right on time after work. He'd sent me a few messages throughout the day. I only replied to 2, out of courtesy. When he got home that night, he rushed in and hugged me tightly. "What's wrong?" I asked, resting his head on my shoulder. His tone carried a trace of sadness. "Elena, you barely talked to me all day." I was scared, he said softly. "Distance and detachment, both can be felt. Luis, you can feel my distance, and I can feel your detachment." I pulled away from his arms and went back to the bedroom alone. For several days, things stayed that way. Finally, on the 4th day, he couldn't take it anymore. As I coldly brushed past him on my way out to work, he reached out to stop me. "Elena, can we talk?" I glanced at my watch. "No, I don't think so. I'm running late. Maybe next time." Ignoring the hurt in his expression, I picked up my keys and left. At lunch, my friend called and said he'd found a place, so I went to sign the lease. Then came home to pack a few things. When Luis came home that evening, I had just finished cooking and was serving the food. He quickly came over to take the plate from me, worried I might burn myself. I had barely spoken in days. It was mostly him talking, and me responding with nothing or little. Now, as we sat facing each other, the silence between us was suffocating. The warmth we once had was gone. "Luis," I said, breaking the silence. He looked up immediately, his tone eager to please. "What is it, Elena?" "I rented an apartment near the office. I'm planning to move there." His hand, mid-motion to pick up food, froze. "Why?" My tone stayed calm as I explained. "I haven't been sleeping well lately. It'll be easier to live closer to work." He stared straight at me, as if trying to find something in my eyes, but there was nothing left. "Luis, these past few days, I've already processed most of my emotions on my own." After dinner, he went to the bedroom and saw my packed suitcase. That's when he finally broke. "Elena, why are you really moving out?" I walked over and grabbed the handle of my suitcase. "I told you, I just haven't been sleeping well." He gripped my wrist tightly. "Elena, you've been so distant lately. Even when I text you, you only reply with a dry you too. Like it's just a routine. I can't feel any love from you. If something's bothering you, just tell me. I can explain." Without waiting for me to respond, he kept talking. "About Nicole, I already explained. There's nothing between us. No feelings, no ties. She came to my birthday because Leo brought her. She asked to add me on WeChat, and I didn't think much of it. If I'd refused, it would have looked like I still cared. She really was lost when she texted me. She doesn't know anyone here. I was just helping a friend. He lowered his head, mumbling. What else? What else was there? Oh, right. About why I never introduced you to my friends. I can explain that too. You know how possessive I am. When I was with Nicole, she was friendly with my friends, joking around and chatting all the time. It was normal. But I got jealous. So I didn't want the same to happen with you. Elena, please believe me. Everything I've said is true. If something's upsetting you, just ask me. Don't keep it bottled up, okay? Ask you what? Was that cake from her? Why was it in your car trunk? Aren't Nicole and your friends all close? If she was lost, why didn't she call Leo instead? And adding your ex on WeChat, is that really appropriate? I think it doesn't matter anymore. Adults shouldn't have to struggle so much just to talk. I brushed his hand away. Luis, I believe you. Then I took my suitcase and walked out the door. Chapter 10. The young man I had mentored before has now become a full-time employee, but he still has the same habit. Whenever he runs into trouble, he comes to me first. Like now, he's clutching his phone, completely puzzled. My girlfriend's mad at me. She's ignored me all afternoon, just because, when I ordered lunch, I forgot to tell the waiter not to add cilantro? Come on, you're always sharp with advice. Got any tricks for me, boss? I glanced at the clock. It was almost time to leave work. So I sighed and looked at him. You'd better rush out the second we clock off, and lift your girlfriend in your arms. She's probably already plotting how to dump you. He frowned. Can a single sprig of cilantro really cause that big a fight? I smirked. See for yourself. Just the kind of sweet nonsense young couples love. He slapped his forehead. But I still have a document to deliver. He looked at me guiltily, as if the words "please help me" were written across his forehead. Forget it, I didn't have much to do anyway. Give it to me. He grinned and handed it over with both hands. You're the best, boss. Get lost. And the kid bolted out of the office like lightning. I flipped open the document, then froze. Luis's name was at the end. Our companies are partners. But I hadn't expected this coincidence. I hadn't seen him for days. He still texted me often. Sometimes he'd come to pick me up after work for dinner. But I always said I was tired and went home instead. Just yesterday, he said if I only wanted to live closer to work and didn't want to move back home, he could move in too. I never replied. At his office door, I knocked twice. Come in, came his voice from inside. So I entered, and there he was, sitting at his desk and leaning casually against the desk. Listening to him talk was Nicole. Luis's voice was a little hoarse, his tone low and weary. Modify this part like I said. Then submit it again. Okay, the girl replied softly. Once he finished giving instructions, Luis finally looked up. Surprise flooded his eyes the moment he saw me. Elena. Then, as if suddenly flustered, he glanced quickly at Nicole. I held out the folder. This is the latest proposal from our company. I was asked to deliver it. Then I turned to leave, but Luis hurried forward. Elena, can we have dinner tonight? Sorry, I said gently. I might have to work late. But he didn't let go of my hand. She's a new intern. I was just showing her how to do reports. I looked over at the girl. Her eyes were fixed on Luis's hand gripping mine, her teeth pressing into her lower lip. What kind of expression was that? Frustration? Why, though? A new intern, free to walk in and out of the manager's office, with the manager personally teaching her. Shouldn't she be happy about it? I smiled faintly. I believe you. Then, before he could say another word, I quietly closed the door behind me. Chapter 11. Luis and I seemed to slip into a lukewarm routine, even colder than when we first met, back when we were more like two roommates sharing a space. I didn't mention divorce, and neither did he. He still texted me every day, though I rarely replied. The third time I refused Luis's invitation and went home alone. My mother sensed something was wrong. I didn't show it. I even lied smoothly, saying Luis was away on a business trip, so he couldn't come with me. But my mother said. Luis came by a couple of days ago. My heart skipped a beat. I worried he might have said something that could upset her. The doctor had warned us. My mother's illness required emotional stability and family companionship. No stress, no shocks. That was also why I still hadn't brought up divorce. Luis might be ambiguous with Nicole, but that didn't mean he wanted a divorce. If I brought it up, he would definitely go to my mother, and she adored him. I didn't want her to worry. So I quickly observed her condition. Thankfully, she seemed fine. She only looked at me with concern and asked, "Elena, are you unhappy?" I shook my head. No. Then she lightly tapped me on the back with her little massage hammer. She said the old one was her, but the foolish one was me. She said that even if I didn't say anything, she could always tell. When someone truly loves another person, they can easily sense that person's joy and sorrow, and a mother's greatest love is always for her daughter. She told me, no matter what happens, never wrong yourself. Your own happiness matters the most. That night, the night I finally decided to give up on Luis, I hadn't shed a single tear, but now, lying on my mother's lap, I couldn't stop crying. Chapter 12. After I got home, I called Luis. He sounded delighted. My tone was lighter too. The heavy stone in my chest finally eased a little. I had planned to meet somewhere outside, but Luis insisted we meet at home, so I went there that afternoon. It had been a long time since I last came back. But after all, we'd lived there for 2 years, so it didn't feel unfamiliar. The place had clearly been carefully cleaned. There were even roses and candles on the dining table. Luis, looking happy, stepped forward to hold my hand, but I put my hands behind my back. Disappointment flickered briefly in his eyes, before he quickly composed himself and guided me to sit at the table. The dishes were plentiful. He brought them out one by one, even humming softly under his breath. I didn't want to waste time, so I went straight to the point. Luis, stop for a moment. Let's talk. He finally sat across from me. It had probably been a long time since we'd sat face to face like this. He looked a bit uneasy, but when he heard what I said next, his expression collapsed completely. I came here today to talk about the divorce. For a few seconds, he didn't even seem to process what I'd said, as if he couldn't understand why those words came from my mouth. Elena, what did you say? So I repeated it. He stared at me in disbelief. You want a divorce? I nodded. When we got married, there wasn't much love between us. We signed a prenuptial agreement, so the divorce shouldn't be complicated. We can simply go to the Civil Affairs Bureau when you're available. Why? His voice dropped low. Why, Elena? It's like you suddenly stopped loving me. Everything changed the moment Nicole appeared. But I explained everything to you. You never gave me a chance. You wouldn't even listen. Why are you leaving so decisively? For the first time in a long while, I looked him straight in the eye. Luis, I did give you a chance. When I asked if you could delete your ex-girlfriend's WeChat. When I asked if you could stop seeing her. I took out my phone, opened WeChat, and handed it to him. There were chat messages between me and Nicole. I didn't even know why she'd added me. Her first message, right after I accepted her request, was, Luis and I broke up because of long distance. We still have feelings for each other. He still loves me, and I love him. She was clearly someone who liked to get straight to the point. And conveniently, so am I. So I replied, if you love him, just tell him. You don't need to report it to me. She responded bitterly. I won't give him up. And she meant it. A few days later, I saw her at Luis's company. But honestly, none of that had much to do with me anymore. I just hoped that after reading those messages, Luis would finally understand Nicole's true feelings, and that we could peacefully finalize the divorce. I have no interest in fighting another woman for a man. After all, they were both willingly walking toward each other. Luis didn't react much after reading. He just sat there in silence, staring blankly ahead. After a long while, he finally spoke. I know Nicole's appearance made you unhappy. I tried so hard to explain, but you didn't believe me. I thought you were just angry. so I tried every way to cheer you up. There's nothing between her and me. The person I love has always been you. Can't you feel it, Elena? I've never done anything to betray you. Why did you sentence me to death so easily? Emotional betrayal and physical betrayal. There's no need to rank which is worse. Why pretend to be ignorant when we both know the truth? I didn't want to argue anymore about love or the lack of it, so I only asked, calmly, "Are you free tomorrow?" His eyes reddened as he looked at me. "Elena, can you please?" I cut him off, speaking evenly. "If you're not free, we can reschedule. If you don't want an amicable divorce, I can wait 2 years and take the certificate then. After all, there's no need for this to turn into a lawsuit between us." Chapter 13. Luis refused to get a divorce. At first, he would message and call me every day, constantly trying to explain those tangled things that could no longer be straightened out. I didn't block him. I just replied once a day, "I'm busy." He would come to pick me up after work. I only smiled politely and walked past him. On certain sleepless nights, I'd glance down through the silver moonlight and see him standing downstairs. Then I would quietly draw the curtains closed. This went on for over a month, until he finally changed tactics. He went to see my mother. When she called to tell me Luis had come by, I immediately got in my car and drove over. This was exactly the day I'd been dreading, and as expected, I couldn't avoid it. The moment I stepped into the house, I could hear the cheerful voices from inside. There were all kinds of tonic gifts on the table, clearly brought by Luis. He was sitting there peeling an apple for my mother, just like he used to when he took care of her in the hospital. When he saw me, he instinctively stood up. My parents didn't say much. They treated him with the same warmth as always. At dinner, my mother even cooked his favorite dish, braised ribs. Luis would occasionally glance at me in secret, his eyes filled with something like hope. When it was time for him to leave, my mother handed him something. I looked over. It was the box of tea, the same box I had taken back after confessing everything to her a few days ago. Now, she was giving it back to Luis. She said softly, "Luis, you must be busy with work. You don't have to trouble yourself to come here anymore." After those words, Luis froze, and so did I. My father helped my mother back toward their room. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. After all, she had once truly treated Luis like her own son. "Mom." Luis's voice shook as he called out to her, but my mother only waved her hand. Her back turned to us. Chapter 14. I stood at the doorway for a long time. I saw something drip onto the box of tea. Finally, Luis said, "Elena, will you walk me out?" So we walked aimlessly toward the entrance of the neighborhood. Eventually, we sat down on an empty bench. Luis looked up at the sky, while I stared blankly at the fallen leaves scattered all over the ground. If what existed between us weren't love, but family affection instead, that would have been easier. Then I wouldn't have to feel jealous because of another woman, nor worry about whether he still had lingering feelings for his ex. If Luis were my brother, I could even help him come up with ideas to pursue his sister-in-law. We would have been a very happy family. But life doesn't give that many ifs. In this lifetime, I've never faced a natural disaster, never lived through war, never suffered a serious illness. That's already fortunate enough, isn't it? If I still wanted a love that was faithful and unwavering, maybe that would just be asking for too much. Luis covered his eyes with one hand, his expression full of exhaustion. "Elena," he said softly, "I don't know what else to do anymore. I've always known what kind of person you are, but I still can't give up. I just wanted to try one last time." He let out a sigh. "There's really no possibility left for us, is there?" It sounded like a question, but also a statement. I lowered my head, watching a yellow leaf land gently on the tip of my shoe. "Luis," I said quietly, "I really did love you once." Chapter 15. The divorce went smoothly. I've never been one for dramatics. And Luis, in the end, stayed calm too. As I looked down at that small red booklet, I thought, from this day on, We are no longer bound by anything, from strangers, to living side by side. And from living side by side, back to strangers again, Luis. You'll always stay in my yesterday. When we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Luis's expression was a little heavy, but when he saw me staring seriously at the red booklet in my hands, he couldn't help but laugh. So I looked up, and our eyes met. Full and clear, Luis said, "Elena, be happy. Goodbye." I waved at him and smiled. "You too. Take care." On my way home, snowflakes began to fall. I bought a skewer of candied hawthorns from a street stall. Then, in the snow, I bent down and wrote a few words. "May Elena be happy every day and live a long, long life." The candied hawthorns were still sweet. The wonton shop at the corner was still crowded. The laughter of passers-by still filled the street. Nothing had really changed. No one will walk through the fog just to find you. The scenery you love. You must go see it yourself. Luis's words. I never doubted my love for Elena. When we met on that blind date, I noticed her right away. She was direct. "If we both feel satisfied, we can get married." We agreed almost instantly. I'm not the kind of man who easily falls for someone, even with my ex. She was the one who pursued me first. But living with Elena, I found myself noticing her little habits. She almost never drank soda, just water or coffee every day. When she tasted something she didn't like, she would frown unconsciously. And the tiny mole between her brows would seem displeased too. On weekends, she wouldn't go out much, just curled up in the rocking chair in the living room. For the whole day, she always seemed different from others. Lonely, distant, self-contained. But I'd also seen her at work, among a crowd of young people. She stood out, laughing, talking, as if she belonged everywhere. I didn't know what exactly I felt for her. Until one night, I came home after drinking at a business dinner, and saw her curled up on the sofa, wearing her fluffy pajamas. When she turned her head and smiled at me, the table beside her held a bowl of hangover soup. In that instant, I thought, I could live like this forever. I wanted to come home to her every single day when I confessed my feelings, and she didn't reject me. My heart surged with excitement I'd never felt before. So that's what it feels like to be loved back. Like every couple, we started dating, chatting all day on our phones, laughing at everything and nothing. She became more alive, buying silly matching trinkets, dragging me to go bungee jumping with her. She said it felt like a promise between life and death. I even started reading her favorite books, watching her favorite films. I wanted to be part of her world. In the summer, we would walk the streets hand in hand, feeling the cool evening breeze brush against our skin. I once thought spending a lifetime with someone was a distant dream, but with her, just being together every day, I thought a lifetime didn't seem so long after all. But our lifetime never came. Nicole appeared. She came with a cake, saying she wanted to celebrate my birthday. I asked Leo why he brought her. He shrugged it off, saying, "She's just an ex. If you can't be lovers, you can still be friends." So I let it go. I didn't expect Elena to show up. When she saw Nicole, she was clearly surprised, though the two of them didn't know each other. I instinctively feared that Elena might misunderstand. That night, they made me drink a lot. My head ached, and my body felt heavy. In my haze, I sensed someone beside me. I thought it was Elena, but when I opened my eyes, it was Nicole's face I saw. The people around us were still laughing and shouting. I stood there awkwardly, then quietly stepped away. We drank until late that night. When I finally got home, my whole body felt sick. So when Elena questioned me relentlessly, I lost my temper. I didn't think Nicole could possibly threaten our relationship. When she texted me saying she was lost, I truly saw her as just a friend. I only went to help. After all, we had been together for years. I couldn't just completely ignore her, could I? At least, that's what I told myself. But later, Noah asked me, what if Elena spent her birthday with her ex, and even left you to see him? How would you feel? Before he finished, I blurted out, "Of course not. I wouldn't allow that." And then I froze. So this was what it felt like to understand too late, back when our relationship was good. Elena loved dropping by my company. She would knock playfully on my office door, peek her head in, and say with a grin, "Boss, I'm here to deliver the documents." It was a side of her no one else had ever seen, but later on, she simply handed me the files coldly, and when I tried to explain, she would only say softly, "I believe you." But what I heard instead was, "I don't care anymore. I don't know why Nicole stayed in this city, or why she joined my company. Maybe she wanted convenience." Yes, I did give her some small favors. As her ex, I felt obliged. But later, she told me, she stayed for me. She said she could feel that I still had feelings for her. I panicked. What made her think that? Was it just the kindness I thought was harmless? Then what about Elena? Was that what she thought too? Is that why she left, without hesitation? Elena was never the type to scream or make a scene when she brought up divorce. She was calm when we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. She was calm, even in our occasional encounters afterward. She could still smile and nod politely. The calmer she was, the more it hurt. She didn't delete my number, didn't block me on WeChat, but she never replied. I couldn't let go. 6 months after the divorce, our companies collaborated on a project. We were both the main representatives. So, under the pretext of work, I invited her to dinner. At the table, she spoke confidently, but only about business. I cautiously mentioned, "Nicole no longer works for my company. She wasn't suited for the job." I watched her closely, hoping for some reaction, but she only nodded lightly, as if it had nothing to do with her, and continued talking about the project. When dinner ended, I couldn't help myself. "Elena," I said, "I've been really struggling lately." She lifted her gaze to me, her eyes clear and calm. You've lost weight." My heart leapt. For a moment, I thought she still cared. Then she added, "You should eat properly. Life is still beautiful." After all, her tone was gentle, but without emotion, like the casual concern of a colleague. I forced a bitter smile. If only she could look at me with the same tenderness she once had. Even if she misunderstood me and got angry, even if she yelled, accused, or cried, at least that would mean she still cared. But now she was indifferent. Through her calmness, she told me one truth: she doesn't care anymore. I got lost in love. And in that moment of confusion, I lost her forever.